Okay, so today's the first day of summer, and for the last couple summers, I've made these videos with book suggestions for for friends and stuff, and they've been pretty popular. So I think it's going to be an annual thing now. So I've got 13 books that I'm going to suggest. Now, here's the thing: there's this idea that students should be reading books that serve as windows and mirrors, and what this means is that a book that's a window allows you to see something that's not in your world, so something that's not in your experience. That's important. It's the way we learn about the world, especially as we're younger. That's how young readers learn. The idea of a book being a mirror is that sometimes it's important to see yourself reflected in the pages of a book. And so I've got 13 books here, and there'll be windows and mirrors for somebody out there, I promise. It's a pretty good selection, pretty diverse group of genres and age levels and subjects. So here we go. The first one is this. The Miscalculations of Lightning Girl by Stacey McAnulty. And this is a really cool book. Read this with my book club recently. It's about this girl named Lucy Callahan, and when she's maybe 7 or 8 years old, this is before the novel, when she's 7 or 8 years old, she was climbing a chain link fence that was struck by lightning. And she was knocked backwards. She doesn't remember any of this, but when she wakes up, she is, her brain has been changed, and suddenly she's a mathematical genius. And she can multiply large numbers in a single bound. She can recite 314 digits of pi. So because she's so brilliant, her grandmother, she lives with her grandmother, begins homeschooling her. But before she can go off to college, because at the age of 12, she wants to go to college. She wants to begin. And her grandmother insists that she spend a year in middle school, because everybody should spend a year in middle school. And so she's got to go to middle school. She has to read a book. She has to make a friend. And so this is about her year in middle school. And middle school can be a trying experience in the best of circumstances. But when you are different, the way Lucy is, it can be much more difficult. So this is a really good book, fun book, great for There's nothing that anybody would be worried about. Young kids could read this book. It's a really good book. Miscalculations of Lightning Girl. Full Cicada Moon. This is written by Marilyn Hilton, and there's been a lot more books in verse. And this is, I think I've got 3 on the list this year. This book is really cool because it's historical fiction, and it's about this girl named Mimi who's in middle school in 1969. Her father is black, her mother is Japanese, and she lives in Vermont. And so there are not very many students of color at all in Vermont in 1969, certainly none with her ethnic breakdown. And so she's struggling with that. The other thing, this is 1969, this is the summer of the moon landing. She's obsessed with NASA and space exploration. She wants to be an astronaut. And in 1969, girls weren't supposed to want to be astronauts, and so she has to convince people that it's okay to look like her, and it's okay for girls to like science. And this is about her journey over the course of about a year, and told in some beautiful poetry. So it's really good stuff. Full Cicada Moon. Again, elementary and up. Here's another book in verse, Inside Out and Back Again, about a girl named Ha. A Vietnamese girl. In the beginning of the story, she's in Vietnam at the beginning of the Vietnamese War, and what I like about this is sometimes when we have immigrant stories, the idea is that of course they want to come to America because where they're leaving is awful. But at the beginning, we see how beautiful Vietnam was for her and how much she loves where she lives, which is really cool. And so then she. As the war descends upon her and her family, they're able to escape, and she ends up in Alabama, a place that is not ready for her, a place that does not want her. And so it's about things like learning English. It's about learning to eat American food. It's about trying to go to school in a place where nobody wants you, and trying to find some friendly people. It's a really cool book, Inside Out and Back Again, by Thana Lay. All Unbound. I've talked about this book before also, and this is a book that I bought because look how beautiful the cover is. How could I not buy this book? And it turns out that the story inside is just as beautiful. It's about a girl named Amal in Pakistan. She's 13 or 14, and she has big dreams. She's going to school. She wants to be a teacher. Everything is moving fine. Her life is going in a straight line until one day she makes the mistake of saying the wrong thing to a powerful person, and circumstances lead to her being placed into indentured servitude. And she thinks it's going to be temporary. When she gets there, she realizes that she may never leave this life, and it's about her trying to get out of that situation. And it's an opportunity for kids to learn that there are people today living in indentured servitude. It's a really good story, and All Unbound by Aisha Saeed. It's a great book. Check it out. Again, elementary and up. Nowhere Boy. This book is really cool. This is set in Belgium, and there's two main characters. I don't know if you can see. Here's this is Max, and then down in the basement, this is Ahmed. Max is an American boy whose family has moved to Belgium temporarily, and Ahmed is a Syrian refugee. And while crossing the ocean to Europe, he loses his family, and so he's alone. He's 13 or 14, and in his kind of struggle to survive, he ends up finding an unlocked door that leads to a basement in this house. The story's told in alternating narratives, which is kind of cool. And in the beginning, we get each boy's perspective. And pretty early in the novel, Max discovers Ahmed, and then it's about the two boys learning about each other. Max learning about Ahmed's situation, and kids will really like this because it goes in this tradition of kids helping kids and doing things behind adults' backs. Like they don't, Max doesn't go to his parents right away and say, "Hey, there's this boy in the basement. We need to help him." He instead tries to help him himself, and an adventure ensues. It's a really, really good book. I loved it. Elementary and up, great stuff. The First Rule of Punk by Celia Perez, and this is a great book too. I read this really early in the year, but it's stuck with me. And if I have one quibble, she looks like she's really young in this book for some reason to me. She looks like she's, I don't know, like 8 or 10, but she's middle school, and there's a bazillion books that start out this way. We've got this girl who's starting a new school, and she's not going to fit in. What I like about this is that this is a Mexican American girl, Maria Luisa, but she likes to be called Malu, and she's she's different from all the other kids because she likes punk rock, and her dad has fed her the steady diet of punk rock, and she loves it, and she wears beat up Converse on the first day of school, and right away people look at her strangely because who is this strange girl? But it's about her finding her way, finding her people, and finding that her love of music is going to push her forward. And the other thing that's cool that kids will like is that she's artistic. And so what the author's done is included a lot of artwork that the character has made. She makes these zines, and so kids will really like that. It lets you see the personality. I mean, it's a regular book, obviously, but there's a lot of artwork interspersed in the story to kind of help us see who she is and what she's doing. So First Rule of Punk, Celia Perez. Again, elementary and up, 6th grade and up. Great stuff. Sparrow. This is another book that I got because I liked the cover, and I picked it up and seemed like it would be a good book, and it was awesome. So Sparrow by Sarah Moon. Sparrow is a young girl, high school if I remember right, and one day, this is opening pages, people find her standing on the roof of her school. Their assumption is that she's about to jump, and so she's, because she is kind of troubled. What we find is that she wasn't about to jump. She was up there because she has this connection with birds, and she was thinking about flying. She wasn't thinking about jumping. But Sparrow has some demons, and she's battling depression, and a big chunk of the novel is her sitting in therapy and talking to a therapist, and And just that I think is cool, because it lets kids know that hey, if you know, a kid who's going to therapy will love the fact that there's a book about that. A kid who maybe has a friend who's going to therapy, or it just kind of naturalizes this idea, or humanizes kids who are struggling with some issues. And Sparrow's struggling with some issues. She gets through them by with her love of music again. And there's what I liked about this is the music she listens to. One of the first bands she discovers is the Pixies, for example. And so the songs are called out, the bands are called out. So as kids are reading, they could be listening to the same music that Sparrow's listening to. They can build a playlist and listen to her music. And when we talked about it in book club, a lot of the kids maybe didn't love her music, but they got to know Sparrow. They got to know the character a little bit more deeply by listening to this music. So this is really cool stuff. This is, I would say middle school, 7th grade and up probably. My 6th graders maybe not quite ready, but good stuff. Scythe by Neil Shusterman. I've been paying attention to Neil Shusterman for like 25 years. 25 years ago, he came to our school and in our library and talked to the kids about what it's like to be an author, which is a great thing. And so I've been paying attention to this name, and he's become one of the biggest names in young adult literature. So this is his latest series. This book came out a couple years ago, Scythe, and it's science fiction. And one of the cool things about science fiction is sometimes it answers questions of what if. And so in this world, disease has been eradicated, and people no longer die of natural causes, or even of unnatural causes, because the world has been made perfect. Okay, and so then he has the problem. Okay, well, what if we cure disease? What if people can live forever? Then what do we do with the fact that no one's dying, and the world's going to get super crowded? So the Scythes have to come and harvest. And so these are these individuals whose job it is to maintain the death rate by randomly selecting people to be killed, and to be gleaned is the word that they use. And so it's about these two kids, Citra and Rowan, who are in apprenticeship to become the next Scythe. And it's just it's a really cool story, because he lets you into this new world, and it takes a while to figure out what's going on, but he does a really good job of it. And it's the first in, I believe, a 4-part series. Not all 4 books are out. The second one is. I would say this is for mature middle schoolers. Just because they're killing people, and they kill people in a lot of different ways, and there's blood. But it's a fascinating book, really good stuff. Jason Reynolds, Long Way Down. I have had a Jason Reynolds book on this list each of the 3 years, because he's awesome. And so this book is about a boy named, what's this boy's name? About a boy named Will, and his older brother Sean has been killed. And Will has grown up with this idea that revenge is important. And so he's struggling with this idea, of what does he do? Does he walk away from this, or does he take his brother's gun and go get revenge by killing the person he believes shot his brother? And so he leaves his apartment with the gun, gets into an elevator, and it's a long way down, because the elevator opens on each floor, and a vision comes in to speak to him, to let him think about what it is that he's doing and what he should be doing. And it's really fascinating stuff as you go down this journey with him. And it's great stuff. I would say this is again for middle school and up, but good stuff. Dear Martin, this is probably my favorite book of the year. Dear Martin by Nick Stone. It's about a boy named Justice, and it's called Dear Martin because he's discovered the writings of Martin Luther King, and he's writing letters to Dr. King, Dear Martin, as he's working through some things. He's a smart kid. He's a black boy who's going to an elite private high school. He's on his way to the Ivy Leagues. His future is bright. One night in the opening chapter, he finds himself in a situation where he's wrongfully accused of a crime, and he's put in handcuffs, and he feels powerless, and that experience permeates the rest of the novel as he deals with some serious stuff having to do with race in America, things that his predominantly white classmates don't necessarily have to deal with, but it's a great read. It's a must read. It's great stuff. One of my favorite books, if not my favorite book from this year. The Hate You Give, I'll talk about this really quickly because there's another video where I talk about it longer. We know it's been a movie. You got to read this book. You have to meet Star on her terms in the pages of this book, not just in the movie theater. And the thing about this book, again, Star, the plot is driven by the fact that one of Star's best friends, another black boy, is shot by a white police officer. And the thing is, one day we're going to have books where the black kids are just characters who are falling in love and going to movies and having coffee and stuff like that. But right now we need books like this, because this is what's going on in America today. This book is for, I've certainly had middle schoolers read it. Parents should be aware there's a lot of profanity. Nothing that they have not heard, but there's some profanity. There's some conversation about sex, but that's not. I mean, that's very peripheral. But there's a lot of profanity. To all the boys I've loved before, this is when they talk about like a summer read. This is like a perfect summer read. This is just a romance. Lara Jean is this girl who, as she's gone through her life and she has crushes on boys, when she's over them, she sits down and she writes a letter and to the boy explaining why she no longer likes him, and she puts it away in her closet in a hat box. And then one day her little sister finds the letters and mails them. And so all of these letters go out to all of the boys that she's ever loved before, and chaos ensues. And so she's trying to track down these letters and figure out, and oh, by the way, she falls in love along the way. So it's a really good book. I think that, again, it's appropriate for middle schoolers. There's some talk about sex. She finds out that her older sister slept with her boyfriend, her older sister who's in college. There's one instance of profanity, but there's nothing to disturb anybody. And it's the first of a 3-part series. This is a movie on Netflix. Read the book. Don't watch the movie. Read the book. Last, I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter. What I liked about this book, I read this book a while ago. What I liked about this book is that our main character, Julia, she is the daughter of 2 immigrants. She's first generation, and so there are pressures that go along with that, where she has to live up to what their expectations are, not what her expectations are. And so this is a book about her trying to figure her place in the world. Also, her older brother, Olga, who was the perfect Mexican daughter, turns out wasn't. Olga has died before the novel begins, and so the story goes on as she's kind of finding out who her sister really was, while she tries to find out who she's going to be. It's a really good book, because these stories aren't being told. The story, the child of Mexican immigrants, these stories aren't being told, but she's done a great job here. Erica Sanchez has done a great job telling this story. And I would say that this is maybe 8th grade and up. There's some talk about, there's some mature things that are going on in here. Nothing over the top, but for mature readers, but it's good. So there you go. There's pick one of those 13 books. I'm sure that you'll love any one of these books. So thanks very much. Happy summer. Happy reading.